Welcome, everyone, to a live World Cross Country preview show. I'm Ouija, founder of Electron.com, with Jonathan Galt live from Australia. And John, well, people were promised two big things for the show. One, Rojo, he will be here. Apparently, his wife is vomiting as we speak. And they were also promised a toilet flush to prove that you're in the other hemisphere.
Yeah, I have some bad news for everyone. The toilet flush, I don't think that's going to happen. The toilet in my hotel room just flushes straight down. There's no swirling of any kind. The sink doesn't have a stopper. There is no bathtub. There is no way to test out the Coriolis effect. I'm a little confused as well. Shouldn't you be upside down right now, Weldon? You look right side up, but you're on the other side of the world. You're inverted from me. I don't understand why your head's oriented correctly.
I mean, all these years, I think I've been lied to. These conspiracy theories, John. What's it like in Australia? We'll kill a little time to hopefully till Rojo gets here with his wife vomiting as we speak. But I'm curious, Bothurst, what's the proper pronunciation here? But give us a little insight of like what's it like there on the ground and that sort of stuff before we break down these fields in great detail.
Yeah, Bathurst. It's hot. That's the first thing you should know. It's about 90 degrees out there right now. It's 3 in the afternoon. And if you're walking around outside right now, well, I wouldn't advise it. Of course, tomorrow you're not going to have a choice because the first race of the day is 3:30 p.m. And then they go all the way until 6:30 p.m. The sun doesn't set until around 8. So yeah, it's going to be hot. It's interesting. The road signs, they're the same road signs you would see in England. So as soon as I land, we're driving on the left side of the road. I'm seeing English road signs. A lot of the names are like English towns. There's a Liverpool and a Newcastle, and I'm just like, I'm in Australia, right? I'm like, wait, yeah, it's never this warm in England in February. So yeah, it took a while to get out here. People are saying this is sort of a. I've seen on the message boards. I haven't seen this in person. Everyone I've met so far has been perfectly nice, but on the message boards, some people have referred to Bathurst as sort of backwater hick town. My experience so far is perfectly fine. I think one of the reasons it's here instead of Sydney, the meet organizers said today at the press conference, is here they can take over a place and do whatever they want to the course. They can make it hard. They can flood it. They can put tires down. They can have them run through a vineyard. They can do whatever they want, and they've got control because it's not somewhere in Sydney where real estate is more at a premium, where the parks are more restrictive about taking over. So I don't know. I like the course. I think it's good. If anyone made it out here, I think they're going to have a good time tomorrow. I'm excited to see what the spectator numbers are like. It takes a long time to get to Bathurst from anywhere in the world, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be talking to you guys right now.
Well, John, I think that's some of the beauty of World Cross Country. They have it in some pretty obscure places sometimes. I mean, not that Aarhus, Denmark is totally obscure, but Denmark last time, Uganda the time before that. I've been to one in, let's see, I went to Poland. I've been to Poland. I've been to Belgium.
Mombasa, Kenya.
Mombasa, Kenya, best one ever, and it was super hot there. And I think that's one thing with World Cross Country in the winter. You better be prepared for the heat. Ganesi Bekele was like carted off the course. I saw people literally nearly die. It's the only time I've seen that in a race. But they were dumping them in ice at the end of these races. It was absolutely crazy.
All
And
right,
ladies
guys, I'm
and
not sure what you guys have been talking about. I'm just joining the show a little bit late. We have various items. There's only two other family members in the house, and they both have things going out of their orifices, different orifices all over the house. Furniture destroyed, lost, etc. I get on here. I didn't realize we were live. I almost started talking about it, and then I was like, wait, it says live. But
Well,
John,
don't worry, Robert. Well, Weldon already told everyone that your wife vomited, so that's out of the bag. That cat that's out of the bag.
Yeah. Well, and I was just thinking, John, it's a good thing I'm not with you. You know, like if I'm in Australia living the high life with you, being your wingman, and my wife calls and says, honey, like Clayton and me are both sick, and you come back, it would have been miserable. So I made the right call in this one, I think. But John, you look great. I mean, I was thinking about this before. My John's had a long flight. Will he look tired? No, folks. Those of you that listen to the podcast, you can't see John. I've never seen him so vibrant. And I realized I was thinking this before, and I'm like, no, John is finally going to feel at home. His whole life, he's felt like an outsider. Like when he grew up in England, he didn't sound English. He didn't have an English accent. He didn't have an
Yes, I
American
did.
accent.
You didn't know me then. I had an English. My accent was as English as anyone else's.
It was in between because his mother was American, raised him at home.
That's
And
just
then
not true.
when he moved to America, it was kind of weird. He talked. I go to Vince now. They're like, "You're not English. You're not American." But now he's in Australia, where it doesn't. It's not English. It's not American. It's your home, John. It's your home. It's coming home. Is that what this means?
No.
Okay, Robert, we have not done the intro. We're saving the intro from you, so get ready to cue that up. But John, if you can't confirm that the toilet goes the other direction, can you confirm everyone in Australia is a convict?
Yeah, they're required actually to wear the serial numbers of their jail stint on their back. If you don't have clothing, they'll just tattoo it on you. You know, you can get arrested again for not displaying your numbers. So yeah, surprisingly, haven't seen any crime yet. But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Aussies. We love you.
Hey, John, I'm from Texas. People wanted to know if I had a horse in my backyard, and I'm sure they thought I'm a redneck. So hey, you got to lean into the stereotypes.
All right, Robert has composed a grand introduction to this show. It is the World Cross Country Preview Show. We haven't talked about running yet. We're 5 minutes in. Let's talk about running. Robert, get us in the mood here.
Distance running fans, after a nearly 4-year wait, we are just over 24 hours away from the world's greatest foot race. The 2023 World Cross Country Championships in Bathurst, Australia are almost here. And on tonight's show, we'll be breaking it down for you with the inside scoop provided by Let's Run's Jonathan Galt, who has traveled more than 31 hours to be our boots on the ground in Bathurst. Well, myself, Robert Johnson, as well as my twin brother, Weldon Johnson, the two co-founders of Let'sRun.com, are stateside. If you're watching this show live on social media, thanks for staying up late. But there's an easier way to watch and listen. Sign up for the LRC Supporters Club and get at least one extra bonus podcast every single week, plus the softest t-shirt in the world, and permanent and instant access to all of the independent journalism we produce at Let'sRun.com. Go to Let'sRun.com/subscribe today. Okay, guys, enough with the intro. Good day, John.
Good day, Robert.
What have you learned? The press conference just ended. I've been reading your articles. I've pretty much read everything. You had a nice article with a little insight on Cheptegei before the press conference. He was at the press conference. What did you learn at the press conference?
Well, the athletes didn't say all that much. I wanted to know Camel. My big question, the athletes there were Jeffrey Camel, Joshua Cheptegei, Emma Coburn, and Jessica Hall. And Jess Hall and Emma Coburn are running the relay, which is all nice, but really, Camel and Cheptegei, they're two of the kings of cross country. Camel is a 2-time World Cross champion. Cheptegei is the defending champion. I wanted to, know how they're doing, and I got some information. I talked to Cheptegei's agent and his coach on Thursday. They both thought he's pretty much ready to go. His training's been going well. He had a setback after the World Championships last fall. He was supposed to run the Great North Half. Didn't do it. He was injured. But he ran 27:09 on the roads on New Year's Eve. Then he comes out. He hasn't raced yet this year, but look, he's where he was at the last couple years. He's very fit, and he's more prepared to run the course this time because he's got 6 years of experience he didn't have when he totally shut down at the end of the 2017 race. But then my questions are about Camel, because this guy was pretty much unbeatable for a stretch there in the 2010s. Every other year from 2014 through 2017, 2014 through 2018, 5 years in a row, he won either World Cross or World Half. You could set your watch to it. He got beat in Aarhus in 2019 with the bronze medal. And then since then, things have been trending down for Jeffrey Camel. He did win the New York City Marathon that fall, but 2020, he got injured and hit by a motorcycle. That kind of wiped out some of his training. 2021, gets in good shape, wins the Kenyan Olympic trials. He's injured, has to pull out of the Olympics. So Now he's 30 years old. I'm wondering, does he have another great run in him, or has time kind of passed him by? Is this now Cheptegei's era, Jacob Kiplimo's era, Selman Barrega's era? So I asked him how his health is. He says he's healthy. He says he's ready. But did I learn anything from that? Not really, because that's what athletes always say. My concern is he was only sixth at the Kenyan trials. He made on the team. So, okay, yeah, I can make some progress in the month between the Kenyan. Oh, actually, Kenyan trials were in December. So he's had 2 months to prepare for this race. But I still have my doubts. He is one of the greats, 2-time world cross champ. But what do you guys think? I truly don't know what to expect from him. I wouldn't be shocked to be medaled. I wouldn't be shocked if he's 25th.
25th would shock me, John.
Yeah, it's a bit
But
disrespectful. Yeah, sorry.
but in my mind, I consider Camor one of the greats, and I think I wanted to put him on that Bekele level, the Gebrselassie level. He's not that level because he's done nothing on the track, and I think I've just had him misplaced the whole time. He was very good. He's done well at cross country. He's done well in the half marathon. He's done well in the marathon. He only has one medal on the track, but it's no comparison. Joshua Cheptegei guy has done so much more in this sport, right? Like 5K world record, 10K world record, Olympic gold, world track gold. I guess maybe I'm just putting more, you could argue I'm just putting more emphasis on track. But of all those accolades you said about Jeffrey Carmore, the world titles ended in 2018. That's 5 years ago. 2019, he was third at the World Cross Country Championships, beaten by Joshua Cheptegei. He did win the New York City Marathon. But that's it. 2020 completely out. 2021 missed the Olympics. He was, what, 20? He was fifth in the world last year in the marathon. So I think this race is important to him. But he was, what, sixth at the Kenyan trial? So why should we really be expecting Jeffrey Carmore to contend for the win here?
Well, the one thing I will say, his last great race, I wouldn't say it was that fifth at Worlds in 2022. That's fine, but that's not sort of like, by his high standards, I'm not blown away by it. 2021, Kenyan Olympic trials in the 10,000. He runs 27:01 to win that race at elevation in Nairobi. He did that. I'm like, this guy's in medal shape for the Olympics. He gets hurt, hasn't really been touched his peak since then. So that's the question. That was 18 months ago. Can he get to that level again? I think we're going to find out, because this is what he's good at. He's good at this kind of race. He's good at hard cross country.
I think Weldon was a little bit disrespectful to this guy. Yes, he didn't do the accolades on the track weren't there, but if cross country was an annual affair when he was in his peak, this guy might have 5 or 6 titles, John. Like, he was pretty much unbeatable at the cross country and half marathon distance. Every year he would just rack up, and then he went to the marathon and won in New York. He's done pretty well there, but hasn't run super fast. But the 27:01 is impressive to me. Why would we expect him to do well? Because at the Kenyan trials in December, what? December.
It was December 10th.
Correct. Which is, over 2 months ago. He was only 12 seconds back from a loaded team. I mean, Sebastian Solway won it. He ran 28:22. Cameron ran 28:34. And then, Solway went out like a week or two later, ran like 58:58 for the half. So if Cameron was in 59, if he's in sub 50, if he's in 59:30 shape 2 months ago, I think he's in good enough shape. Cheptegei wasn't running 26:30; he was running 27:10 around the turn of the year, and you improve in the next 6-8 weeks. So I do think it, in the banner underneath the video show, those of you that are watching live, it says like, whose legacy benefits the most by a win. A win here would be huge for him. I agree. It's kind of, John, you're the historian. You've got the good memory. Like, do we see people sort of fall off from being the king and then come back to being the king very often in this sport? Like, I think sometimes people generally have a second act, like they're the track stars, and then they move to the marathon. You saw that with Gebrselassie. You've seen it with Kipchoge. But have we ever had someone sort of be on top, come down, and then come on? But I guess we can give him an excuse because he got hit by the car. Although I guess he lost a chip to guy before getting hit by the car, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we have. I mean, David Rudisha, he got hurt for. I mean, a lot of times it's driven by injuries. I think it's like, can they come back and are they their pre-injury self? Like, remember, Rudisha breaks the world record 2012, then 2013 he's hurt, 2014 he comes back, he's not quite the same guy, and then 2015 he blasts everyone and wins worlds and wins the Olympics. So I'm also thinking Kenny Spicale. How many times has that guy been counted out? I mean, granted, it was in the marathon, but when he fell off in the track, he never returned to the track. But then he started fading in the marathon, comes back with a great performance, starts fading again, comes back with a great performance. That's what you're hoping for with Cam Moore. I think it doesn't happen a lot. Usually it's like, okay, it's this guy's turn. Right now it's Cheptegei's turn, or it might be Jacob Kiplimo's turn. That guy's really, really good as well. Cam Moore, it's a harsh reality. It may have passed him by, but of course, I think the win, you're talking about whose legacy is it bigger for, Robert? I think it's bigger for Cam Moore because Cheptegei's already won pretty much everything in the sport, and one world cross country title certainly helps him, but that's not really going to be the difference between, if you're arguing if he's the GOAT, he needs to win the Olympics next year. That's really the legacy defining one for him, double gold. Whereas Cam Moore, if he's like, okay, yeah, I was the man, and then I stepped off for a while, and now I beat a field that's as stacked as this one, and announced myself again, that to him, that's even another level on an already great career.
Okay, a couple basics. Some people here are asking when the races are. I got bad news. You live on the East Coast of the United States. The first race you can watch at a reasonable hour, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. That's the 4x2K mixed relay. So that's not bad. 8:30 on the West Coast. But then the main entree, I believe, is at 3:30. John, is that correct? 4 hours later. What takes them so long to run these things?
I think it's 2:30 a.m. Eastern, right?
Okay, 3 hours later, excuse me, I'm getting that wrong, is the senior men's race, which I consider the granddaddy of them all. So, but if you're on the West Coast, yes, that'd be 11:30 East Coast. That's right, it's 2:30. If you're on the West Coast, it's great viewing. Stay up and watch this. It's on Peacock. But everybody else on the East Coast, man, good luck on this one. It will be shown on demand on CNBC the next day. Peacock, you can obviously watch on demand as well. So,
okay, there were a couple other comments from Seb Coe at the press conference talking about stuff I learned. One of them was essentially he claims World Athletics is really trying to reinvigorate cross country. He felt the previous administrations didn't put that much emphasis on it, and he thought that the 2019 champs in Aarhus, which we all, I said was the best edition of the World Cross Country Championships I remember covering. He liked that a lot, and he thought it was great because the course was hard, and he also liked that they added these extra elements. In Aarhus, they had a beer tent. There's no beer tent in Australia, but they had, mud. They had Vikings on the side of the course. Seb Coe thought these things were interesting, and I asked him, because there's been mixed reaction. Let's talk about some of the features on this course. There is the vineyard section where there are 3 lanes you can run through. Each of them are only about 2.5 meters wide. You got to pick which one. You've got the mud pit. They're calling it the Billabong, which is significantly muddier than the photo was showing you now. I saw some of the footage today. It's like, it's very muddy. You've got a big hill after that. And then you've got what they're calling the chicane, which is these tires, 10 rows of tires, and they're arranged in such a way that you can't run straight. You have to weave in and out of them. And that is the feature I would say is the most divisive, because I've had coaches and people on Twitter saying that's a joke. This is a gimmick, though that's not part of the environment. I know we're at a motor racing track, but come on, like you're adding extra bells and whistles that don't need to be there on an already tough course. They didn't like that. So I asked Seb Coe, I was like, what do you think? Do you like these features, or do you think they're gimmicks? And his response, to be fair, he's like, well, yes, of course I like them. What else am I going to say? He's sitting next to the head of the local organizing committee. He's not going to say, oh, yeah, this is terrible. It needs to be overhauled. But his larger point was he thinks this is the direction cross country needs to go. He was like, look, for many years, the courses at World Cross Country he felt were fairly similar. When you had them in Europe, they'd have a bit of a racetrack. You might add some hay bales, but you wouldn't have stuff like this. He likes the Chanka Malini race where you run through the mills. I think the European cross they had just this past year in Italy where they run through the building, they like that as well. Overall, I like this course. I kind of agree with him. I think it's interesting to add these unique elements to each course and make it hard as well. I think that's fun for the viewer. It separates it from just being a track race. Because let's be real, the NCAA cross country races, usually it's just the fittest track people are going to win. Sometimes the course in Oklahoma, okay, it's a little bit more challenging. It's tougher. The footing was all really good. But like in Bathurst, you got to be paying attention to your footing the whole time because the footing is pretty bad for most of it. It's very hard. It's lumpy. And that's by design. They want it to be challenging. So I like that this is differentiating it from other things. I like that they're trying to make it more interesting. And in general, I like the course in Bathurst.
John, looking at the photos, like you talk about how hard it is. Now, for those of you guys listening on the podcast, you run between these vineyards. They have these tires set up when you have to zigzag through. The tire thing we can talk about in a second, but the course itself just looks like grass to me. It doesn't look that hilly. I know there's some elevation change, but like what's so hard about running on hard grass? That to me doesn't seem that difficult.
Well, there isn't much grass at all, Weldon. There's some weak amounts of grass on a lot of the course, but it's kind of like grass on top of hard dirt. And in theory, that's all right, but it's not flat either. There are little bumps and cracks and that sort of thing. It's not as if you just take a step forward and you land naturally. Like you take a step forward, your foot's going to move to the side. It's something if you're worried about weak ankles, you shouldn't be running this course. So the footing is treacherous, and the hills, the biggest hill, which is coming out of the Billabong, it's a mother effer of a hill. It's about 130 meters, I would say, and I think it climbs maybe 50 or 60 feet. It's tough. It's very hard, and I didn't get any good pictures of it. Sometimes it can be difficult to really contextualize what these things look like, but there are very few sections where you're just flat the whole time. It's the footing is up and down and the footing's not even, and you're either climbing or descending most of the way. That's what makes it tough to me. Seb Coe said he thought this was the hardest course ever at World XC. I disagree with that. Aarhus was harder. I've never seen anything tougher than that course. But when you add in that it's going to be 90 degrees during the races tomorrow, physically this could be as demanding as Aarhus.
I love the course. Like I'm watching the thing; these guys weave in and out. You said to weave in. I think a few guys will have to jump a little bit because in the first loop, if it's still close together, you might kind of not be able to move to the left. But it'll just be a good visual. It's not a big deal. People are so soft. I want the fittest person to win. I don't want it to be a mountain race, but just something visually appealing. I like the drama of the 10,000 at the Olympics, but I don't want to be some old dude that's stuck in the past ways. And I'm fine with, I guess, if we want to swap out the 10,000 for cross country. If we're not going to put cross country in the Winter Olympics, and what other activity can people win gold medals for running in Winter and Summer Olympics? I think it might appeal to different people, etc. It seems like a fair course, but if you're good at cross country, like Weldon and I were not good at cross country. We were like rhythm runners. Like we like it flat. Your ankles going up and down. Like that's one of the reasons why I think Cheptegei is going to be hard to beat. Is he says the uneven terrain is what he's used to. He trains in this all the time. He's not used to having a smooth thing, and that's just you're either good at that or you're not. So I think that's a big advantage, to Cheptegei. But Kai Robinson of Stanford, who's an Aussie. He's there, John. I forgot. Did he say it was a little bit harder than Oklahoma State, or less?
He said if you take out the bells and whistles, so essentially if you take out like the tires and the mud, he thinks that Oklahoma State is actually a harder course. And look, he's the one who's raced that thing, so he would know better than I would. But Oklahoma State, the climb, it doesn't have a climb as intense as that big one coming out of the Billabong. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd be interested to hear from other athletes, but he's one of the only people who's actually run on both, so he would know. But Dave Smith seemed to think. I think he probably would say this course is. I mean, they're just different. The footing is amazing at Oklahoma State, and the one thing he said to me is Oklahoma State. There are parts where you can just sort of turn your brain off and you just run and you're looking up and not worrying about things. If you do that on this course, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because you need to be paying attention to every step. You got to be picking your correct lines. You got to be making sure if you're going in that vineyard, you got to run the tangent, go down the charades lane, people. Same thing. When there's an 180-degree turn right before the chicane section. You got to make sure you're positioning yourself because you want to be in the lead when you go in there. Whatever pack you're running in, you want to be at the front of it so that you can choose your path and not be forced to go over these tires. I don't think anyone's going to be hurdling these in the senior races, Robert. They're just going to be too tired by that point. But on the 2K loop, I asked Emma Koba on this. 3 of the U.S. athletes on their 4x2K relay are steeplechasers. Emma Koba and Alec Baston and Jordan Mann. And I asked Emma, would you hurdle that stuff? And she's like, you know what? I practiced it a few times, and if it was downhill, I'd definitely consider it. Even uphill, it's a little uphill as well. That makes it tough to hurdle. But she was doing it. She wasn't having that many issues. So she was like, look, if I need to do it strategically, I'm running next to another person, and I need to make a gain or something, yeah, I'll do it. But otherwise, I think she's going to try to weave.
Okay, John, if you think Emma's going to hurdle it, then some of the men are going to hurdle it too, for sure. Especially when there's a pack of like 15 guys the first time around. Now, the little secret about World Cross Country is usually the top 3 guys, they might beat everyone else by about 20, 30 seconds. So the thing will spread out over the course of 10K. But the first loop, I think it's going to be very interesting because you've never seen something like that where people have to like really spread. That's what I want to see. I think it's great. None of us like easy courses. Aarhus was amazing. The course was just absolutely astounding. I mean, if they had said we'll have World Cross Country forever at Aarhus, I would have been fine. Like that's how much I thought the course was challenge, interesting, great for fans. So I'm glad there's a challenge here. I think the heat is going to be more of an issue. This one guy here in the thing saying, "Oh, expect fast times." Do not expect fast times, John. But you're at a little bit of altitude, right? So I think, is there much humidity? But 90 degrees?
It's quite dry, and it is a little altitude. Yeah, it's like about 2,000 feet, I think.
So 90 degrees, it's still 90 degrees, even if it's not that humid. So I think that's going to be the biggest factor, especially for a lot of these athletes. Well, I guess there aren't a lot of athletes coming from Europe, but that's a different issue. But I think we should break down the men's race here, get some winners, move on to the women's race.
One thing real quick about the weather. I mean, I updated your article on the dew point. I mean, it's going to be extremely dry, when the first races start off. 53, it's going to be it starts, the mixed relays start at 3:30, and it's going to be over 94. It's going to be basically 94 degrees at 2 p.m. By the time the women start, it's going to be 88 at 5:30, and then when the senior men start, it's supposed to be 82. But the dew point will be going up. So the dew point is 26% humidity at 4:30, but by the senior men's race 2 hours later, it's going to be, and that's the dew point of 53. The dew point is going to have risen to 60, and the humidity is going to have doubled almost from 26% to 46%. But that's still pretty dry. So I don't think we're going to have a lot of people going to the hospital, et cetera, like that. But yeah, senior men's race is amazing. I mean, we've got a poll up and let's run all-time stacked race. I mean, it was hard for me to limit the number of people in the poll just because, I don't know. I think Joshua Cheptegei, the defending champion, has to be the favorite world record holder in 5 and 10,000. Cameron Moore's won twice. He needs to be in there, but he's only 6th at the Kenyan trials. But in the end, I basically, decided to list, and this is like wonderful, 2 Kenyans, 2 Ethiopians, and 2 Ugandans. So you got Cheptegei, no slouch, obviously. Jacob Kiplimo, half marathon world record holder, also of Uganda. For Ethiopia, Solomon Barega, he was only 7th at the Ethiopian trials. but he is the Olympic 10,000 meter champ. So he's kind of, I would put him in the camera war level here. Like some questions about him, John. What's his cross country pedigree for Borrega?
So Borrega was 5th in Aarhus in 2019, and that was a strong field. And earlier this year, he ran the Juan Muguerza meet in Spain, and he won that. And it's interesting. He said afterwards he wasn't planning on running world cross country. He was going to do an indoor season, but things changed. I think the federation wanted him to run here. He beat Berhanu Balu in that race, who is a sub 13 guy from Bahrain by 13 seconds. He beat Adel Mejdkal of Spain by 25 seconds. So he won that fairly comfortably. I think that the Ethiopian trials were not a great race for him. So yeah, I think you should definitely have him. If I was going to pick two Ethiopians to include in the poll, it's definitely him, and it's definitely Erigawi, who we know loves to grind from the front and who won the Ethiopian trials. The Kenyans, though, you could argue, remember, Cameroon was only 6th of the trials. You could throw in, you've got Sebastian Sawe, who won the Kenyan trials, but you could throw in Kibwat Kandie, who is the half marathon ace. He won the 10K at the Kenyan trials last year. You could throw in Nicholas Kipkorir, who is the Diamond League 5K champion. You can throw in Daniel Samiu, who was 2nd at the Kenyan trials, ran 12:54 last year. Like, it wouldn't be a shock to see any of those guys battling it out, but who do I think this race comes down to? I think it might be Cheptegei and Kiplimo again. Those two guys, we know they can run on this kind of course. This is the exact kind of course we saw in Aarhus. And Kiplimo, he ran very well in the heat back in 2017 in Uganda. Remember, he won the junior race at that meet. So I think it's going to come down to those two. And the question is, has Kiplimo in the 4 years since Aarhus surpassed his countrymen?
John, what? No, I don't think he has. But real quickly here, let me show a clip to people watching at home, watching the video. Technical difficulties. There we go. What do you guys see there?
I see a series of still images of Joshua Cheptegei slowing down at the end of the 2017 World Cross.
Still images. It's a video. Hopefully the video live on the internet's not this bad. I try to do some local recording. Oh my god, if you're seeing still images, this is bad, John, because I'm seeing video. But
It's
at World
fine.
Cross in 2020, when was that? 2017?
2017.
Back then, Joshua Cheptegei was not a name. Right, John? He was how old?
He was 20 years old.
And total unknown pretty much. But this was
That's
a
not
huge
true.
deal.
He was
Oh
the
my
World
God.
Junior 10K champion in 2014. He was an Olympic finalist the year before. Like, people knew if there was a Ugandan threat, he was going to be it. He wasn't. You're underselling him here.
John, don't mess the narrative up. Anyway, on the senior scene, fine. He had done nothing really on the senior scene, right? No one expected him to win World Cross Country. It's at home. He opens up. He gaps Cam Warrer, opens up a gap on the field, and you're just like, holy crap, is he going to do this? And then he
12
started.
seconds. Yeah.
Then he
was up
started
big.
just completely catering. Like, it's like one of those things. You're like, will this person be able to recover from this? So they can't run in a straight line. It was nuts. So the heat is my big concern for him. But this race, the great thing it is, it's got huge names, right? You have Cheptegei, the greatest distance runner outside of what? Non-marathon right now in the world, for sure, I would say. You have Kiplimo, second last time, pretty good. World record holder in the half marathon. Kibwat Kandie, world record holder in the half marathon before him. And I think cross country really correlates well with doing well in the half marathon. Then you've got Camborer, all-time legend in cross country. Borrega, the Olympic 10K champ. And then, like some of these dark horse Kenyan guys, like the Kenyan champ. Now, will you guys admit that he has done nothing until this year?
Well, until last year. Yeah, last year he beat Candier at that 1 hour world record attempt. He ran 58.02 in the half. But yeah, he had basically zero results on his resume until last year. He trains in the 2-run club with the guys who were cleaning up on the circuit last year in the marathon circuit, Amos Kiprudo and Benson Kiprudo and Evans Chibat. But yeah, he came out of nowhere last year. Now people know who he is. But he hasn't, this is going to be the biggest race of his life so far.
Look, this I'm not worried about Cheptegei in the heat. And John, your article said that the coach isn't worried. That was 6 years ago. He was young. He was a big talent. It was at home. He went for it. I'm being amazed. Like, this was Pete Camore, and he gapped Camore by 12 seconds. Like, he's destroying Camore. It was like mind-blowing to watch this. And he just went a little bit too hard, too fast. When he didn't have, the governor on him. Like, when you're young, you can do some foolish things. But since then, John, you and I were in Tokyo together for Olympics. It was so hot and humid there. I know the sun wasn't out, but this guy knows how to. He's not going to try to gap somebody by 12 seconds. He doesn't need to gap them. He just showed at Worlds he can now kick them at the end of the race, win the 10,000 title. He won the 5,000. This dude was the guy that, remember, he didn't used to have a kick, but he won the 5,000 Olympic gold medal. So I think he's fine. Caplimo is amazing as well. Third, and I just don't know why Caplimo would have passed him. In Eugene, he was third. Cheptegei was first. And if you look at the Let's Run poll, that I have up on the homepage, if we can pull that back up again, but this was, as of an hour ago, but I was a little bit shocked. There it is. 51% of people are picking Cheptegei. So Cheptegei versus the field, everyone's saying Cheptegei. Next highest is Caplimo. So people are expecting a 1-2 repeat of last year, 21%. And I think that's about right. I mean, I think Cheptegei is 2.5 times more likely to win this as Caplimo. Yeah, I guess so. Camore, 13%. Selman Barrega, 6%. Olympic 10,000 meter champion. Berhu Aragawi, 4%. I don't like that. I think Aragawi's chances are higher because he's the Ethiopian champ. He was always planning on doing this race, etc. And then you've got other 4%. And then to me, the real problem in this poll, Sebastian Sawe, the Kenyan champ, 1%. I mean, I guess history is full of guys that weren't really ready to win. They don't care about winning the trials race. A lot of times the Kenyan guy who doesn't win the trials race ends up winning worlds, but 1% for the guy that's a ace half marathoner who won the trials, I think that's a little bit low.
Yeah. Jeffrey Camoro is not 13 times more likely to win this race than Sawe. But Sawe's not a name like these other guys. Like, who are the biggest names there? It's Cheptegei and Barrega, who are the Olympic champs, and it's Caplimo and Camoro.
But, okay, last thing about this race. I mean, let's make your predictions. I do think Cheptegei is going to win. Could someone get that chart off the page? And to me, the question then becomes, GOAT discussions, greatest of all time. And I know when I think about the GOAT discussion, I give a lot of credits to World Cross Country. Others may not, but this will be his fourth world title, right, John? Coding the track. He won the Olympic.
One Olympic. No, it'll be his fifth. He's won 2 in the 10K on the track. He's won 1 in the 5K. And this will be 2 in cross country.
So he'll have 5 world titles. This is all at the age of 26, by the way. 2 world records, 5K and 10K. If you compare him to someone like Mo Farah won 10 to count in the Olympics titles, which is a lot. But no world records. To me, a world record, I'm sorry, in this day and age, has got to count at least the same as one of these global titles. So
in this day and age, wouldn't you say it's less valuable? I mean, records being smashed left and right, Robert.
Put Farah in the cheater shoes. He might have a record. My God.
Lemecha Gurma has never won any gold medal, and he just broke a Daniel Komen record. Same with Mohamed Katir.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I got to take the L in that analysis.
Well, it might be fine. Yeah, it's worth 1 world title. Yes,
I count it.
I will put it about that. But before, a world record used to be like, oh wow, you're the fastest guy ever. Now it's like, oh, you've got better shoes than everybody else.
But I'm saying,
I
like,
still give him credit for those. I mean, those world records. Everyone else has the shoes. No one's run nearly as fast as Cheptegei. No one's tried to really, but I still give him some
The-
credit for that. You
Yeah.
can't just say shoes and hand wave it away. They're still
Yeah,
still way
thank you,
faster
John.
than Farah
No
ever
one's
ran.
tried. It's like fair. I assume if he could have gotten the world record, he would have gotten it or tried. You know, and so I'm saying, yeah, if you count the world records as global titles, that gets him to like 7. And he's only 26. Do you guys know how old Mo Farah was when he won his first?
28, because it was one of the most. We've never seen anything like that before. It's still never understand how he made that late career transformation. It's unprecedented.
False, Johnny. He's 42 years old.
No, that was Mirat Yifta. People actually, Mirat Yifta may have been 42 when he won the Olympics. But anyway, no, Robert, all right, the GOAT discussion. No, I need to see more.
No.
This is something when he's all said and done, we'll be like, oh, he won World Cross twice. Like, I'll give him some credit for that. But to really pad his resume, he needs to win more of the track. He's never doubled up. And this isn't like Kylie G, who just ran one event every time. He's run the 5K and 10K. Tokyo was fine. It was gold and bronze. But last year, after he won the 10K in Eugene, he did nothing in the 5K. He wasn't even in the picture. So if he can get that double gold at the Olympics, maybe take his world records a little lower, if he's the first man sub 26, something like that, then you start getting me excited. You got to keep, but he's got to keep winning. And he's right now he's in the conversation for the best runner of his generation. You know, I would consider this a separate generation from Farah, but in terms of greatest of all time, he's still got a couple years of compiling he needs to do.
Well, it's a little bit hard because I think there's more guys now competitive than back in the day. Maybe that's also just how good Bekele and Gebrselassie were. Like, how many guys are really going to touch them in those races? Now you've got, I mean, that's the thing. And let's turn to one, Grant Fisher. Like, when I was coming up with a list and I went 2 Kenyans, 2 Ethiopians, 2 Ugandans, I probably could have put all 4 Kenyans in there. I mean, I'm like, there's like 10 guys legit that could win this. Like, how many guys, like, that's just wild to me. I was like, if Grant Fisher was in this race, where would he finish? Like,
Over under 10. What do you think, Robert?
Well, he just got 5th in the 3,000 and leaving, so I'm putting over 10th.
I
and
think you're right.
Particularly when now Uganda wasn't that good back in the day, but back in the day when he used to run like what was it, 12? Was it 12 per team or 8 per team? Or how many? They used to run a lot more guys.
I think it was 9 per team.
9 per team and 6 scored. Todd Williams, American showed up and was like 8th or 12th. I remember thinking, my God, that's good. So
no, Grant Fisher, this is just not an event that the Bowerman Track Club that style. Well, I'm sure. All right, maybe if Jerry really, really cared about it and dedicated himself to figuring it out, he would figure out how to coach it. But this is just an event most Americans don't prepare to run on. Like Americans are not training on that kind of terrain. No American distance runner does any training of any kind on the terrain that they're going to be racing on Saturday. Racing in the heat in the middle of the day, I guess they have done it sometimes by necessity, but this is just, it's a strength race. I guess they do strength, but like the hills are ridiculous. You don't see that sort of thing in American distance running either. Certainly for no one who came through NCAA cross country. It's just not something that it's not an event Americans are primed to do well in. That's why no American man has medaled in this thing for 41 years.
If you're under the age of 25, Google the term not RUP certified. There's a classic Let's Run thread that's amazing about this. Galen Rupp only can run in manicured lawns and golf course type courses. Alberto pulled him out of some race one year because it wasn't like that. But I don't think training on this like uneven terrain helps you. I just think you're kind of either naturally good at it or not. I mean, like Julie Benson, the coach of the ultramarathon star or college coach of
Jim Walmsley?
Jim Walmsley was like, yeah, he's just amazing. And we always knew he was amazing at running downhill. Like, that's just the way it is. So, anyways. Women's race.
Wait.
There's one more guy I want to discuss here because this was the source of heated debate between you and me this week. I had a line in there saying Jakob Ingebrigtsen and Grant Fisher aren't in this race because I would say to American distance fans, those are the 2 biggest names that people would want to see. How would Grant Fisher do here? How would Jakob
Wait,
Ingebrigtsen.
two biggest names are the people not there, not the two biggest names.
Correct.
Don't disrespect Chip to go like that.
But Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Robert had a line in my preview that I had to edit out saying he wouldn't have a shot at a medal. And I just think that's just absolutely absurd. This man is the 5,000 meter world champion. It's not like he doesn't run cross country. He shows up to Europeans every year and paces everyone. Granted, it's Europeans. You're not facing the best of the best, but the idea that the 5,000 meter world champion has no shot at a medal in a cross country race, I just think that's an absolute insult to Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Robert. Do you stand by that ridiculous take?
Yes, I do.
What's your justification? And don't tell me, he was 12th in the junior race in 2019.
Do tell him that, Robert. Do tell him
that. Does he have
that.
a K in his name or a C? Am I misspelled his name?
There's a K. He was 12th in that race. He was 18 years old at the time, so he was probably younger than a lot of the athletes he was facing. And guess what? He got a hell of a lot better since then. We didn't know Jakob was going to turn into some 5K aerobic monster 4 years down the line. Now he's running 12:48 and he's blowing everyone away at the World Championships. Sorry, Jakob Ingebrigtsen is a lot stronger than he was when he got 12th in the world 4 years ago in the junior race.
I had to edit John's article, and John gets mad when I edit and don't get permission, but you were on a plane to Europe, to Australia, and I changed the order of things because you started off by talking about who wasn't there. I don't give an F who's there. Shame on, I would normally say shame on you, Grant Fisher, but he ran against the big boys in a world record race.
Yeah.
So he didn't hole up and go to some damn time trial. He tried to get a world record, and it was wonderful, and I'm fine with it because I don't think you would have a chance. And I moved the order down. I put the who's not there at the very bottom of the article because I want people to get pumped for what we call the world's greatest foot race. And I think, yes, if you just sell it as this, the world's greatest foot race, it's obscure. That's why I always want to go. Guiyang, China. That's where I went. I had my own translator. John, do you have your own translator there to translate the Australian English into the American English? So, but yeah, you put them in there. I'm like, do we really think these guys are medal? No, you admit Fisher has no shot of a medal in this thing, right? None.
I find it extremely unlikely. I just think Grant Fisher's a great runner. I don't think this is a skill set.
But, what do you mean? He's the two-time high school national champion.
Yeah, this isn't Balboa Park against 17-year-old Americans.
At Foot Locker, which is hilly. But, my take is he was 12th in the junior race. Also, he's a big-ass, tall, white dude.
Oh, there it is. There it is. We don't need to bring his race into this. That's so stupid.
Okay,
can Robert stop this bullshit?
Okay.
Woody medal? Probably not, John. I think I would say over, under, top three. I would say under, actually.
Wait, well, I get confused with those. You say he wouldn't be in the top three. Yeah.
Yes.
But I
would give him a pretty good chance.
If I had to pick medalists in this race, I don't think I would pick Jakob. But to throw out the idea that he has no shot at medaling, it's just ridiculous. Right. I will say, look, Mo Farah, he was the 5K, 10K champ for a long time. He never showed up to World Cross in his prime. I'm not sure he would have done that well because I think he was more of a track guy. He was more of a speed guy. And if Jakob's in that boat, maybe. But Jakob also shows up and kicks ass at Eurocross. I think he'd do, especially if you had this thing back in Aarhus or a colder climate. He might not be the best. Though he did say last year, hot weather is happy weather. And he won the 5,000 world title while taking a water break in the middle. So maybe the weather isn't that bad for him.
I was saying, Weldon said race. I just mean he's a bigger European dude who's from Norway. Well, I don't think he gets that hot. And I do think that the hotter it is, the harder it is for Western runners. I don't think that and the hillier too. I don't think we maintain stuff. This is why we suck at the marathon compared to that.
What about Galen Rupp?
I don't think you can. This is sad to say, but what about it? I mean, he's either an outlier or he was on the secret sauce with Salazar. I don't know.
Wait, what did he say, John? What was the question?
Robert was saying that Western runners don't do well in the heat. I'm like, okay, what about Galen Rupp? No, I think the bigger thing is Western runners just generally get beaten by East African runners more frequently in general. Kara Gaucha medaled in Osaka. It was hot as bulls that meet.
I just don't think big dudes, Weldon sucked at hills. Big guys, tall people, 6 feet going up big. How tall is this guy? going up hills, I don't think it's in his skill set. If
No,
this was the Joe, if World
Turgot
Cross
was a
Country-
big dude. He was pretty good at cross country.
if
I
World
do
Cross
think
Country
it helps
ever
with the
goes to
hills
the
because it's
Notre
harder.
Dame,
You can have a better power to weight ratio that way.
Okay,
you
but
tell-
real quickly, you guys mentioned Mo Farah a couple times. This guy flying Frisch in the comments, he's like Mo Farah's like publicist. Mo Farah did not get enough credit. He won 10 in a row world titles on the track. 10? That is crazy. And this guy also points out, Alberto gets all the credit. He ran 12:57 before Alberto?
But this is all right. This is the point he's making. My point, which is why I'm all confused by this. He's saying you take well undertrained people and they develop late in their career. No, Mo wasn't undertrained. Okay, maybe the first couple of years of his career, maybe he didn't work hard enough. It was only he started hanging out with the Kenyans at St. Mary's and seeing how they train. But by 2009, 2010, he had Alan Story, who was a good coach. He was training hard and he ran 12:57 for a Brit. That's fantastic, but usually you don't do that and then go up an entirely new level, 2 levels after going to Alberto. I think it's a myth to say Mo was undertrained and not working hard by 2009, 2010.
I don't think he did all the ancillary stuff, and well, obviously the gray area stuff he wasn't doing, John. But that's for another podcast. And people are saying I'm getting heated. I don't think the beer is hitting me. But if you guys noticed, when Rojo takes a swig, he goes off the podcast. I just do it right here. People think this is like some homemade brew. Do you guys not have beers like this, like where they just put like stickers on them? I feel like that's the thing now.
That looks a pretty typical beer can. People were speculating it was an energy drink. I'm like, no, it just looks like beer.
No,
All
it's
right.
called Threes Brewing. Kids out there, I'm not advocating drinking. Drink responsibly, my God. Like these kids who go out and get tanked. No,
Guys, all right, I need a men's podium from each of you. Go.
okay, we're not doing it at the end. Can John go first? Then I'll steal his picks.
I didn't even get to talk about Ingebrigtsen.
Robert, we're at 51 minutes in, and I'm hoping to wrap this thing up at an hour. It's almost midnight on the East Coast. Apologize.
Is my mic not working? Can y'all hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you, Robert. What else did you have to say about Ingebrigtsen? You said he was tall. You said he was Western European.
I know that he listens to the show and he says I have unusual takes. I don't want him to totally hate me because when he has a few subpar races, I hope to take over his coaching and coach him to the top because there's nothing like Ingebrigtsen. Watching that guy run is like, God, it excites me. But if this was the Joe Piani, if they hold World Cross in Notre Dame at the Joe Piani invite, which is like a golf course, yes, he would be exceptional with that. It's the reason why I think he's unbeatable at the 5,000, and I want to see him do the triple because if this is a flat 10,000, I think he's right in it. But up and down, hilly ankles, I'm not so sure.
All right, we'll do predictions at the end, I suppose. And yeah, Rowan Debus here makes a good point. Every Ethiopian runner in the men's race in the Tokyo Olympics DNF from the heat. I think that's the men's marathon. 2 of the 3rd Ethiopian women DNF'd. Running in heat equals question of prep regardless of origin. And yeah, I would say they were underprepared for that race. So that's a great point there, Ron.
But real quick, Flying Frisch, email me, weejo@letsrun.com. You'll get a free letsrun.com t-shirt. If you're watching now on YouTube, we got links to the letsrun.com shop below the video. Click there. Our shirts really are super soft. They're amazing t-shirts. People are like, oh my God, I got the shirt. It really is soft. They think we're lying to them. Like, these shirts are really good. And
I ran into someone at Millrose. He was wearing the shirt, and he told me it's really soft. I love the shirt. Like everyone, universally beloved this shirt.
so buy your shirt. The link should be below the video if you're on YouTube, or go to shop.letsrun.com. But Frisch guy, email me, weejo@letsrun.com. You'll get a free shirt. Thank you for the comments.
2 things. One, my platonic friend that I go on dates with all the time. That's an inside joke about the Let's Run thread. That was not me starting that, by the way. But her husband, I gave him a Let's Run shirt for Christmas. He's not even a runner. I was over to their house the other day. He's like, my God, your shirt is so comfortable.
Wait,
So
what? You know the person who started that thread?
No, I don't. People were saying that I started it. I didn't do it. Anyways, is Rowan Debus, John, is he related to Gabrielle Debus?
Yeah, that's her husband, Robert.
Okay. We have famous people listening. Thank you.
Hello from Australia, guys. Good to hear from you. All right, women's race. Let's talk about this. We haven't discussed it at all in the first 54 minutes of this podcast. And I mean, look, part of that is the men's race is just more intriguing. I know Robert likes to joke, "Oh, you're supposed to be a feminist, you're sexist, you like men's running more than women." No, this men's race is just objectively more interesting. There's more star power. That said, there are some interesting things I'm going to be following in this women's race. One, Letessa Mbekgide's in it. She is the premier long distance runner right now in the world on the women's side. And I love that she's doing this. I mean, this is a woman who last year won the world championships on the track in the 10,000. Then she goes and debuts in the marathon in Valencia and runs 2:16, fastest marathon debut ever. And then 3.5 weeks after making a marathon debut and coming second in Valencia, she shows up to the Ethiopian trials on New Year's Day and wins it. And I'm like, this woman just doesn't stop. And now she's doing World Cross. And then she's going to go back on the track this summer. I like that she takes on these big events and goes after it. She's the world record holder in the 5,000, 10,000 and a half marathon simultaneously, which I don't think people make big enough deal about it. That's ridiculous. And she was the bronze medalist at World Cross last time out in Aarhus. But the women who finished ahead of her, well, I know that Helen Obiri is not doing it this year. I believe the silver medalist was Dara Dida of Ethiopia in 2019. Am I making that up? No, that's correct. And I don't think she's on the team this year. She's not. So she's the top returner. She won this race twice as a junior in 2015 and 2017. And she's the world's premier distance runner. That all adds up to me that she's pretty unstoppable. And right, Robert, you had it on the homepage. We currently have a poll. Are you taking Letessa Mbekgide at World Cross Country or the field? Letessa Mbekgide, 72% of people are taking her over the field. That's crazy, but is it undeserved?
No, it's not undeserved. Like, maybe the weird thing is, I think the three of us may think she's even better than what she's actually accomplished, just because I guess she was one of the first people. She ran that 15K on the roads, that 44:20. We're like, what? That was kind of right when the super shoes. We were really understanding it. And then the 62:52. Are you kidding? But it's kind of weird. She's run fast, but not won a lot of global titles. Right?
Correct. As a senior, she's only won one, which was Worlds last year. But she outkicked a bunch of kickers in that race. That one kind of changed my mind about her. Then I said she was going to outkick people and win the 5K. Robert was right. That didn't end up happening. But
she never wins a 5K. She just sets the world record in the event. But it's kind of weird because if it wasn't like Hassan, I mean, Gide closed the 10,000 in 4:02 for the last 1,500 and got beat because Hassan closed at 3:59. Like, she's so amazing. So at the end, like, this was when it's all said and done, and it's a long way to go. Because how old is Gide, John?
Oh, she's like 23.
You know, but she's never won the Olympics. But at the end, I mean, like, I was trying to think, like, how many women, John, have won even World Cross and the Olympics and had world records? Like, she ultimately could easily be the greatest distance runner of all time. So I think this is big for her legacy. And the fact that, like, I think 4 women have won 2 World Cross, but it used to be every year. Do two junior World Cross. There's only 2 women that have won 2 junior World Cross every other year. So like 2017 and 2019, like, you know, the year gap. And the first one, when she did it, was a woman by the name of Faith Kipyegon. Have you ever heard of her? Oh,
I think she turned out all right.
She's one of the greatest 50-meter runner of all time. And when she did it, we're like, this is so hard to do. Like, it might be a long time until we see it again. And then the woman who won it, I think the next 2 years, or was there a 1 year gap in between them, was Gide. So, like, we've seen a lot of women struggle with puberty and body changes and whatever. These women were winning at like 16 and then winning at 18 and then just crushing it as pros. So I kind of wish Kipyegon would run this as a senior. I think she has. Like, I think she ran the 10K at like fifth one year. Am I making that up?
She was
8K?
she was part of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Kenyan sweep in 2017, but I think she was only fifth or sixth. Yeah, no, Gidey. I think she could be the most talented distance runner we've ever seen on the women's side. So, yeah, it's not a. I think she is clearly the favorite here, but there are some other world class women in this field. One of them, Beatrice Chebet of Kenya. She was the silver medalist in the 5,000 at Worlds last year. She won the Commonwealth Games. Then she won the Diamond League final. She's won a couple of cross country races on the circuit this year. She's only 22. She's actually younger than Gidey. So she's a contender for sure. Then you've got Eritrea's Rahel Daniel. She was fifth at the Worlds in the 10,000 last year. And she's been winning on the cross country circuit as well. She's 3 for 3 in 2022. This would obviously require sort of a step up to beat the likes of Letesenbet Gidey. But if you're looking for someone who could maybe take that step, she's the one. And then the one other name I'm going to throw out there, I don't actually think she'll win, but it's going to be interesting to see how she does, is Francine Saba. Because a couple years ago, she was winning everything on the track. She didn't get to run the Worlds last year because she was hurt. But she hasn't really been that dominant runner in her most recent races. She ran a road race on New Year's Eve and got beat by 41 seconds. And then at the Juan Maguerza cross-country meet in Spain on January 8th, one of the ones that Rahel Daniel of Eritrea won, Saba was 47 seconds behind her. So I don't think she's in the kind of shape needed to contend, but we know how good she is when she's on her game.
Okay. The Gidey's obviously the huge favorite in this thing. And I don't know, just with her running style, the fact she used to never win anything on the track, like she was a 5K world record holder and would get smoked. I'm like, oh, she's not, and she didn't win last time at cross. She was third. I'm like, oh, she's weak at cross country. But she's not. She's the 2-time world junior cross country champ. She should just, right, clean up on this field. I mean, but I think the beauty of world cross country sometimes is, John, you can't, well, I don't know. I was about to say you can't fake it. But sometimes we have sort of obscure names come out of nowhere. Like John, like, who was second last time? I'm impressed you got that name. Like, once I heard it, I was like, oh, that was right. But like, on the
it's only because I've been studying the Wikipedia page recently. Well, I had totally forgotten her name as of like 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
Well,
do you know
she's in
who
the-
Japhat Korir is?
Japheth Correa, he won 2013. I remember
Yeah.
that.
I mean, like, I swear the guy was like out of the sport within a couple of years, like did nothing.
Wait,
Like, I mean,
Can we
I
say
think he
something
ran in
about
2018
Deradita?
or something, John. But what?
Deradita, who was second, right? That's her name.
Yeah.
That's correct.
It's amazing because we've had several podcasts. She just won Dubai this weekend. We didn't even mention Dubai. I think the Dubai field was down this year compared to years past. I'm not sure. It may have lost its status as my unofficial major, but kind of a cool story. She's Tamara Tola's wife, right? And his brother won the men's race. World champion. So world champion's brother and world champion's wife got rich in Dubai.
Yeah, well, Dubai, the reason they've cut the prize money, Robert, the fields aren't as good. Valencia has surpassed it as the 7th major. And I think you could argue Valencia is stronger than a couple of the majors. That's a different discussion, though.
But real quick, it was, to me, I mean, Tamara Tola's younger brother, who won Dubai this week, like when he won, he was down on his knees and crying. Like it was life-changing money, I think, for him. Like, so I was like, wow, man, this means a lot to these guys. It means a lot.
So anything else you guys want to hit on from the women's race? I mean, Beatrice Chebet, one thing to note is she DNF'd at the Kenyan trials. So she came back and, she's won at the San Vittori Alona. Is that the Campaccio meet? No, that's the Cenca Malini. Okay. She won that, but yeah, she DNF'd at the Kenyan trials. though we've also said in the past, Kenyan trials aren't always the biggest indication of who's going to win at World Cross. The winner there was Grace Leubach, who is 19 years old and really not that much is known about her. So maybe she's just a big time talent and shows up and does something, throws herself in the mix. And
John, is she there?
is Grace Leubach at the meet? Is
On the
G'day at the
entrance
meet?
Yeah.
Which athlete?
The one who won in the Kenyan trials.
I haven't seen her, but that doesn't mean she isn't here.
I mean, she on the entries is what I'm saying.
She's on the entries, yeah.
Okay. I only said that because, you know, when somebody just comes out of like absolutely nowhere on the female side from Africa, this was the one that ran 17:26, I think, in the junior trials in Kenya this summer. And now she's winning the senior race. The first thing that pops in my head is DSD. So I hope that she's eligible to run. I hope it's just an amazing story she just found running, etc. Because they would have tested her since then, I think, and figured that out if she was ineligible.
Yeah, she's entered, she's running. And if you're DSD, it doesn't matter. You can still run World Cross. So I don't even know why you bring that up.
Well, fair enough. See?
Yeah, I guess I would also mention Sigi Gebreslama of Ethiopia. She's only 22. She's younger than G'day as well. Last year, she ran. Actually, her PB is from 2021. I'm sorry. She ran 30:06 in 2021. Now, that's a whole minute slower than G'day, but for the rest of the world, still pretty damn fast. So, she's run 65 minutes and a half. I think the women's race, I see it more as G'day kind of has to have an off day. She either needs to struggle with the course or struggle in the heat, because if she runs her best race, she's not losing.
All right, we need to end this show soon. But John, have you talked to any Americans? Got some talented juniors: Irene Riggs, Lex Young,
Leo Young.
Yeah.
I really haven't, because yesterday when they were coming off the course, they kind of skedaddled kind of quick. They didn't linger around the finish line, and I was talking to Cheptegei's coach and his agent, so missed that opportunity. And then they were at the course. I mean, I think they're probably leaving right now. They're supposed to be running the course this afternoon at 2 p.m., and I had to come and record this podcast. It's 4:11 p.m. right now. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until the mix zone on Saturday for me to catch up with the Americans. Hopefully they give me something to talk about.
Well, you had to come record this podcast, John. I didn't force you. You could have easily not showed up, although you were the first one to show up.
You spend all the money flying me out to Australia, and you don't want me to give you the lowdown from here. And the most difficult thing I will say about covering, well, not the most difficult, but one of the challenges about covering this meet is figuring out a time when both you and I are awake, because the time difference is 16 hours between the US East Coast and Australia, and there's not a lot of overlapping time where both parties are awake. So we settled, we're like, what's the best time for us to do a podcast? It's actually 11 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday night, guys.
Yeah, we're still struggling with that, John, because I was debating, we're supposed to visit Weldon this weekend. His wife's out of town. My wife, me, and my son are going to go visit him. But I want to maybe record a podcast after the meet. But John, I feel like if you're there, you probably want to go out and celebrate that. Instead of doing a podcast at 6 a.m. after the meet, but then I don't know, everyone's been sick here. Weldon will be too tired. I may not. I'm trying to figure out when I can watch this meet. Also, I don't think literally, if I watch the meet at 2:30 and do a podcast at 6, I might as well just not sleep.
Well,
So I was thinking about doing the opposite, which is sad. Just not watching the meet at all. Just going to bed at 10, waking up and seeing what the average person does in the world. Okay, do they go to the results site? Do they go to the forum? What do they do? How do you find out? Ask you what it was like, John.
Yeah, this is my question for you. Weldon, are you going to watch the men's senior race, the big one, the granddaddy of them all, as you say? Will you watch that race live at 2:30 in the
John,
morning?
he's taking care of his daughter. He's the only one responsible for her. Like the wife's gone. Like the
I've
daughter,
come up with a plan. It's hard, right? If a kid doesn't sleep the weekend, I'm like, and my wife and her mother, who lives nearby and could help out, are both in Paris right now. It's like all the cousins. It's like some huge girls' trip. I've come up with a plan. I will be skipping the junior races and watch the 4x2K. Then I will sleep for sure. Wake up for the men's senior race. Then maybe go back to sleep and wake up for it. I feel like we're gonna have an early morning podcast, but that's the plan. Because I pretty much after about 8 o'clock, I'm not gonna have any time to work. So I guess I could call the grandfather, get him over here. I feel like there's enough time in there if I just only want to sleep about 3 hours and do it essentially when the junior races are going. But hey, you can't complain. It's one of the watching obscure races. It's kind of one of the great things about being a track and field fan.
I looked it up. I was trying to figure out the time frame. I'm like, this time frame is good for Kenya, though. You wake up in Kenya, Saturday morning. Europe, I think it's pretty good. No, right? That's okay.
Yeah, Europe is not bad. You need to get up early for the early races, but if it's 2:30 a.m. for America, that's 7:30 a.m. UK and 8:30 Central Europe.
I see in the comments here, John, Seth Demore's racing on Saturday.
I don't want to.
What is this race? People, chime in. He's so popular in the forums. He'll be coming up next. Him and I will be doing a live podcast for 24 hours straight.
I know very little about Seth Demore. All I know is that he's insanely popular on the Let's Run message boards, and that's basically the only thing I know about Seth Demore. So sorry to shatter anyone's expectations here.
Damn it! If we could have wait, John, were the trial races today? There was trial races. You could get into the race tomorrow. How'd those go? You should have entered. Damn it.
Yeah, I didn't. I had no interest in running that.
This is what we need to lobby for the next World Cross Country, which will be where?
Croatia.
Oh my God, I'm excited. I can't wait to go to Croatia.
Oh my God.
This man said this about Australia as well, and he's currently sitting in his study in Connecticut. I'll just say that for the record.
Okay, but it should be like the one in Denmark where people can enter in the race, just random Joe Blows. And Let'sRun.com, we'll put Seth Demore into the World Cross Country Championships. Seth, it'll all be on us. We'll pay for it. That's what people want.
Like, how does Seth Demore even run in Colorado? His PRs are like 14:53 in like 31 minutes. He's not even like a good ultra runner. He's just like a famous one.
I have no idea, Robert.
I don't know how good he is. I really.
Any Aussies are on here, John? It's the middle of the day there, right? So people should be listening. Like, how late does stuff stay open? Because I told my wife, I was like, yeah, but I got to get up at 6 a.m. to report a podcast because I want John to have time to be able to go out and have some fun and find the future Mrs. Galt.
This isn't a major city, Robert. There's 37,000 people live here. Like
so what? The bars in Ithaca stayed open.
Even better, John.
My wife said, you're going to abandon the family so John can go out drinking? That sounds irresponsible. So I'm just trying to help you, John. I feel like you've been striking out in America. You have better odds in another country.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really given that much thought. I probably am going to be too tired to want to go out too crazy on Saturday night, considering last night I thought I was doing great with the travel, and then I got to 10 p.m., and a wave of tiredness just hit me. I was like working on this. I'm like, oh, I'll stay up until midnight working on this article, and I'll just sleep for a bunch. I got to 10 p.m. I'm just like, I can't function at all. I need to pass out. So.
Okay, right here, John. Guys. Someone in the comments said Seth Demore made a U.S. mountain running team. That's one more national team than you made, John. Go ahead and say it. Is making a U.S. mountain team legitimate, John? Go ahead and say it.
Sure, it's more impressive than anything I ever accomplished. I didn't have a particularly distinguished running career. But I will say this. We were talking about, like, staying up. It's easy to be a football fan in the United States. The games are on at convenient times for adults. You can watch them. Everyone watches the Super Bowl. It's hard not to watch the Super Bowl in the United States. Running, you can prove how dedicated of a running fan you are. That's watching World Cross at 2:30 a.m., staying up until after midnight to listen to the Let's Run live show, waking up at 4 a.m. to watch the London Marathon. Like, So, you might get some weird looks, but that's proof. You got a passion. I think that's great.
And wait, I gotta turn this thing around and put it out as a podcast. Ooh, supporting club members, your audio will be pretty shit, but maybe I'll fix it.
Nobody
in the morning.
cares. Just put it out.
I will.
Yeah.
And
They only
wait,
have 24
Daniel
hours to listen
Black.
to anyway.
Daniel Black, supporters club member. Some people pointed out. I was promoting the shop earlier. If you join the supporters club for a year, you get a free T-shirt. Just do that. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. But Daniel Black here says he's a supporters club member. How do I get the long sleeve shirt? You can just order it for free. But email me, weejo@letsrun.com if there's a problem. But he said, I'll build you software, professional services trade. We get a T-shirt in return for software? Yes. It sounds like a good trade to me.
We haven't even talked about the big events, though, the weekend. The second hour here for the Supporters Club members. Apparently, RAK half is this weekend, I've just learned.
That one's good. Bridget Kosgei's running, Helena Beery. It's actually going to be a really good race.
And then, who came up with these ideas? Put RAK half this weekend. And all the national indoor track meets. The big meet in an obscure town that starts with A. Not World Cross Country, John.
Albuquerque, USA Indoors.
USA
we haven't talked about
Indoors,
Anna Hall's U.S. record in the pentathlon yet today.
Oh, it's already started, I guess.
It's already the pentathlon's already over.
And
John will know more about it than me. I did look. Cole Hawker's going for the double.
No, he's not. He's out of both races.
What?
Yeah.
Again? No.
I'm like, did I see this wrong? But I checked the start list again, and he's off both of them. Let me just double check here again and make sure I wasn't seeing something wrong.
Who's going to win that thing? I guess Josh Thompson's in there. We don't need to preview USA Indoors, but...
Cole Hawker is out. I mean, the way I look at USATF Indoors, Noah Lyles is in the 60. I mean, I think Katie Moon is competing. Like, you have a few names, but it's crazy. I used to worry, want to promote this thing, criticize the SARS for not showing up. I'm sorry, USATF needs to make the meet more amenable for people to show up. I don't know what that means. Put it in a city people aren't sick of going to. Put more prize money. I can't blame athletes too much for doing what's in their self-interest. But yeah, these distance races, I don't know. Drew Hunter's got a chance in the 1500. It's good stuff for him. Guys, I think the men's 8 is pretty interesting because Clayton Murphy, Bryce Hoppel, can they sort of find any of that form that they used to have? So I think that's a step for them.
Isaiah Harris is in it. That one's loaded.
Isaiah Harris, yeah. The men's 8 is, I think, by far the best race. You don't have Isaiah Jewett, but besides that, it's the best race distance-wise for sure. I don't know. Women's 3K, I guess Whitney Morgan can show her thing.
Ellie Hennis, who ran pretty well at Melrose as well.
So it's a good opportunity.
Emily Mackay ran. She was pretty impressive last week at BU. I mean, you got a few. If someone wins this, I think Whitney Morgan's probably the person to beat here. But someone wins, you're unexpected. You're okay, they're the U.S. indoor champ, and now we can follow how they do outdoors.
Yeah, it's like Sage Klecker in the 1500. There's a chance for people to sort of get a USA title. But
could Sage Hurd or Klecker possibly lose to college freshman Addison Wiley? If people knew the true the whole story there, my God, this world would go crazy.
Wow, I didn't even realize she was in that race.
Did I say too much there?
I think that's a sign we need to end the show. Guys, it's been great catching up with you from Australia. I hope that, I don't know, we'll figure out how we're going to plan this post-race coverage. We'll talk about it at some point, whether it's immediately posted. We'll have articles. We'll have interviews on site with the winners, with the big movers and shakers. And if you're in Australia, make sure, if you're in Australia and you're listening to it right now, I'm guessing you're probably already planning on being in Bathurst on Saturday, but I hope the crowds come out and make a good environment. It is the world's greatest foot race. It is one of our favorite events at Let'sRun.com. Thanks for listening to our preview, and can't wait for the big day tomorrow.
If you're John, does our credit card work there?
Yes, sir.
Hit John up, people. Hit John up. Although I shouldn't make that offer. If you're from Australia, the offer does not apply to you because those people are known for drinking a lot, man.
How about this? Well, then, en route to when I was walking up to my hotel room today, I'm walking through the parking lot, and right by the pool, I see someone in a Princeton track and field T-shirt, and I look at him. He kind of looks at me. We sort of have a mutual recognition. It's Des Proctor. He's listening right now. He's been posting in the chat, and we sort of chatted up. I'm going to pay for his beers Weldon tonight because he's been messaging about meeting up for this for a while. But if we happen to bump into anyone else, yeah, you need to have made
Is
sort
he
of
Australian? What's his deal?
he's American, but he's lived in Australia for I think he said 26 years now, something like that. So he's been here for a while. But he came up from Canberra. He's not, doesn't live in Bathurst.
We have some breaking news to end the show. Drew Hunter said he's sick on Strava. Hopefully he's ready to race. And that makes sense to me because he's pregnant. He's going to be having a daughter soon.
Drew's pregnant?
That's what I read on Let's Run. Drew Pregner having a daughter. So I've heard recently in the last few years.
Robert gets so mad when someone said, when some guy says, like, we're having a daughter. Like, it's just a word that people use. Get over yourself, Robert. Real quick, John, final question. How would Monson, Morgan, and Tui do at Bathurst? Who's Morgan?
Whitney Morgan.
Whitney
we were just
Morgan?
talking about her.
Oh.
I mean, probably wouldn't finish in the
running
top
pretty
10, but it'd be... I mean, Monson right now would probably be in the teens, low 10s maybe. Tui, a little further back. Yeah, Morgan and Tui, maybe 20s and 30s.
Yeah, I sort of agree. Monson, I think, could challenge top 10, probably around 15. Morgan further back, somewhere in the 20s, 30s for her and Tui. But hey, they're not here. They're not there.
Yeah, we won't know, unfortunately. I mean, I can't blame Caitlin Tui for not running well across. But anyway, that's going to do it for the show. Pleasure catching up with you guys, and enjoy the races tomorrow wherever you are.